The HS Game Time Live Blitz. I'm Pep Fernandez. This is the big ticket. Kyle Glazer, KG, and Kyle, we're already into week 6, which means league play for most schools.
Yeah, Pep, this is the time of the year that every coach and every player really looks forward to. While there's a lot of exciting non-league matchups that we've seen over the last few weeks, a lot of coaches and players will tell you league play is all that matters. So right now we're in the meat of the season, and really what all the kids are gunning for is a league title.
I'm glad you said that. League matters because it's a brand new season. Teams are, I guess you can technically say, 0-0 as they head into league play. We're going to have Jurupa Valley on the show a little bit later, and they're 1-4 right now, but going into the River Valley League, they thought all along that they could be competitive. They've played a tougher non-league schedule. Hopefully that will prepare them for the River Valley League, which is coming up this Friday, so we'll talk to the Jaguars a little bit later in the show.
You know, there's a couple of 1-4 teams, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that I think can be competitive in league play. There's a lot of tough non-league schedules, and non-league's not always the best way to measure the true competency of a team, if you will, because there's those teams playing 4 or 5 opponents that are some of the top 50 in the state. Then there's those teams playing 4 or 5 opponents in the bottom 100. So you really have to take schedule strength into account. League play is sort of the great equalizer, and we're going to find out a lot about how good some of the teams are that we think are really good, and maybe some of the teams we don't think are very good. If they are in fact good, we'll find out.
Yeah, you can look at a 5-0 team, and from afar they look good, but a little closer you look at it, maybe not so impressive. All right, let's start with the Big 8 because we have 2 huge contests right out of the gate in the Big 8 League. You'll be at one of them. Norco Santiago. Now, Norco beat Norco Centennial. Norco beat Alemany last week. And I thought a lot of people were maybe writing Norco off, but now they beat Alemany. A lot of people are, giving Norco attention now in the Centennial game.
And that's what happens when you beat a team ranked in the top 25 in the nation, number 6 in the state. Alemany is a fantastic team that I believe will contend for a state bowl berth, independent of their loss to Norco. The fact that Norco went out and, as they say, punched them in the mouth with Corey Young and that experienced offensive line showed a lot about Norco. You know, there's obviously been a lot of turmoil in the offseason. There's been some coaching moves, but at the end of the day, Norco found a way to come out and get a huge win against a marquee opponent. And if the thing is, if they can beat Alemany, they can beat Centennial. Now, I think going into the Alemany game, people would have said, oh no, they're going to get blown out by both Alemany and Centennial. But if you're capable of beating one, you're capable of beating the other. And that's why this game, all of a sudden, in the span of a week, has gone from almost an afterthought game in a lot of ways to this is arguably the marquee game in the Inland Empire this week.
And you could say, and I guess I got to give credit where credit is due. EPJ, that's been his battle cry that, oh, Norco's a lot better than what people are saying. They're going to come out there and they're going to compete. So we saw them beat Alemany, who beat Centennial. So now we have to maybe reassess this big Centennial-Norco matchup, which went down to a field goal last year. And
both teams are going to be hyped for this one. Norco has always been the team, I think, that's given Centennial the biggest run for its money over the last few years. When you look at the schools in the inland area that have produced the most Division I caliber athletes, it's Centennial 1, Norco 2. I think if you were to go back over about a 10-year period, I'd say Centennial and Norco are 1-2. Anytime you have 2 programs that are that good in the same league, really not far from each other in terms of geography, it's going to be heated. Both teams are going to be giving their absolute best. You talk about going into league play, wanting to get off to a good start. Both of these teams are getting thrown right into what might be their toughest league matchup of the year, and that's saying something in a league as good as the Big 8.
And KG, if that's not enough for you, if Norco Centennial is not big enough for you, they've got Roosevelt against Santiago also on Friday. 2 of the top quarterbacks in the area. I think we're guaranteed a shootout in this one. And maybe the front runner for, I don't want to say second place right now, because I don't know if Centennial's still a lock for first place, but obviously a key battle in the Big 8.
There's no question, especially now there's only 2 guaranteed playoff berths out of each league. You really want to try and get into that second spot, and a loss by either of these teams does set them back. These are 2 teams that are going to be fighting for a playoff berth, whether it's first, second, or as a wild card, and each league loss is crucial. They also need these quality wins. For both teams, beating the other would represent a huge quality win that could help them come wild card time if that's the situation they're in.
But would you say it's more important for the Sharks only because of what their record was? They're 2-3 right now, and they played a very tough non-league schedule.
I think it is, because for Santiago, right now you mentioned they're 2-3. If they lose to Roosevelt, then they still have Centennial and Norco on this schedule, if you're, say, 4-6, 3-2 in league, even if you're in the Big 8, that's probably not enough to get you in, especially if you're 4th in your own league. So I think Roosevelt can afford the loss maybe a little bit more, but really both teams, I want to say it's a must-win game, but each of them really needs this one for their long-term goal of getting into the postseason and getting a good seed, which matters a lot.
All right, some great games in the Big 8, also featuring a couple great running backs. Now, we talked about the quarterbacks, Blake Barnett for Santiago and Joseph Muriel at Roosevelt. But when you look at the Norco Centennial matchup, you mentioned Corey Young for the Cougars, Trey Watson for Centennial. I think they're 2 of the top 3 running backs in the area. I mean, you're going to see, I'm assuming, a lot of scoring, a lot of running attack in this one.
Absolutely. I think Corey Young will probably be getting to carry the ball a little bit more, just the way Norco runs its offense. But that said, both of these backs are capable of putting up 2 250-yard, 3 or 4 touchdown games. Both these backs have demonstrated they can run for big yardage against marquee opponents. They're not racking up their yards against, the East Valley Division teams of the world. These are going up against Pac-5 defenses. They're both 2 guys. Corey Young, to this point, is not committed to a Division I school, but he's a Division I caliber back. Trey Watson going to Cal. You mentioned these are 2 of the premier backs in the Inland Empire in terms of statistics, in terms of pure skill, in terms of abilities to go to the next level.
It's going to be a great game. A lot of talent on that field as Norco plays on Centennial. I keep wanting to say Santiago. I don't know why I'm jumping ahead of the schedule. I think it's like week 9 on Thursday night or whatever, week 10. All right, so moving on to the Southwestern League. Vista Marietta, the perennial favorite, you could say. I mean, I think that's safe to say, the Broncos.
20 straight league wins. That'll make you the perennial favorite.
Which I think Centennial also has the same league winning streak in the Big 8. But, you got to take a look at Great Oak. You got to take a look at Marietta Valley. Maybe Chaparral's in the conversation as well. So as we go into the Southwestern League, the big matchup right out of the gate, for us at least, is Great Oak and Marietta Valley.
Absolutely. I think Marietta Valley is going to go into this one favored, as they probably should be based on their body of work. But Great Oak has really been one of the more pleasant surprises. People forget last year they were a playoff team in the Inland Division. They went 5-5, made the playoffs. They're taking another step forward this year. And I think Great Oak is one of those programs that's definitely building up, and a big win for them would be beating a Marietta Valley or even a Chaparral, which could really say, okay, now we know they're not a bottom half of the league team. They are definitively a top half of the league team. That's one step closer to taking down the big boys, Vista Marietta, which is a multi-year process. That's not something that's going to happen overnight.
I always, for whatever reason, discount Great Oak. I think in the Heritage game, I picked Heritage. Against Rancho Verde, I picked Rancho Verde.
I think I did too. It's not just you, and it's not about disrespecting Great Oak. It's just, I think you're right. They do get lost in the conversation. You look at Vista Marietta. Everyone talked about Marietta Valley. Even Chaparral, with some of their championship history, people are more aware of them. But Great Oak, in a lot of their sports, has really, it's a school that's really done well for itself since it opened up. And you can argue it's really establishing itself as the premier athletic school in Temecula.
Plus, they got great uniforms. I love their uniforms this season. When they came out against the Rancho Verde, it was a shootout in the very beginning, and I thought, oh my gosh, if the Wolfpack get into a shootout with the Mustangs, this thing's over, because Rancho Verde has a great offense. They can put up a lot of points, a lot of good skill guys. But like I said, Great Oak always seems to surprise me. They surprised me against Heritage as well. So, I think I'm picking Marietta Valley in this game. But I want to pick Great Oak just for that simple fact. They always seem to sneak up on me.
I think it's one of those games. A lot of people are going to pick Marietta Valley to win, but if Great Oak does win, I don't think anyone would go, jaw to the floor, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming in a million years. Great Oak's a good football team. I think Marietta Valley is a better football team, and that's why I'll be picking them to win. But once again, if the Wolfpack pull it off, it'll be like, all right, good for them. It won't be, oh my goodness, what in the world happened?
Well, Vista Marietta plays Temecula Valley on Friday. The Broncos, we can assume, is the heavy favorite in that one. But Marietta, Mesa, and Chaparral, we know the Pumas are a pretty good team. Mesa's got the good record. How do you kind of see this matchup, Kyle?
It's kind of the classic team I mentioned, Chaparral. They've got some championship history to their name. The team that, they haven't been that elite in recent years, but they've always been hanging around. They're a perennial playoff contender. Marietta Mesa's the rising team. We're seeing them get better and better every year since they've opened up. I think this is actually going to be an interesting battle for what the future of the Southwestern League holds. I think if Chaparral can hold off Marietta Mesa, it shows that the Pumas are still, that top half of the team league. That's still a force to be reckoned with. Marietta Mesa comes out and wins it, or wins it handily. I think it starts to usher in that new era of, hey, Mesa's a force to be reckoned with now and in the future.
All right, so we've covered the Southwestern League. We've already hit on the Big 8 League. And to no surprise, when you look at our HS Game Time top 10 rankings, it's filled with Southwestern and Big 8 League teams. Kyle, let me punch this one up. And, of course, after that huge win against Alemany, Norco vaults into the top 10, all the way to number 5. We saw Great Oak do something similar after a couple big wins for them as well.
And we talked about it. Beating a top 25 team, not in the state, in the nation. That's where Alemany was. Norco deserves to jump up like they did. We wanted to see how they would do. We talked about it over and over. New coaching staff, new players at a lot of key positions. As I said before the season, I didn't think Norco was going to go 2-8, 3-7 this year like some people were saying. I was thinking more of that 6-4 range. Now there's some consideration. Can they go 8-2? They can beat Alemany or so. I mean, it's possible. It's not completely ridiculous to ask.
I wish I could remember that Centennial score off the top of my head against Alemany. It was
it wasn't
50
close.
to 38 or something like that, or 54.
45, 20 something. It wasn't close. It was one of those games where Centennial just wasn't there for them that night. And you remember that was the loss that caused Matt Logan to strip the C's and the nameplates off of the jerseys. So Alemany is a potent team, and as I mentioned, I think with the Leaf Grays, they're a state title berth contender, even with the loss to Norco. So going back to that, Norco has a chance to vault. If they beat Alemany, if they beat Centennial and Alemany back-to-back,
really
then you can argue they might have a shot at number 1. But for right now, Vista Marietta, after that 40-point win over a very good Crespi team, is to me the number 1 team in the area, no doubt, based on their body of work to this point.
Well, Kyle, you alluded to it. Remember, we had a tie last week. We had Centennial and Vista at number 1, but Vista Marietta getting 78 votes, so they're now the number 1 team in the HS Game Time top 10. Marietta Valley and Roosevelt still hanging strong at 3 and 4. They're not going to give up those positions that quickly unless Santiago sneaks up on the Mustangs or Great Oak this weekend. We've got some great games. Norco 5, Rancho Verde 6, Great Oak at number 7, Heritage 8, Paloma Valley 9, and San Gorgonio checks in at number 10. San G and Paloma Valley undefeated.
Absolutely, and we have 2 teams that, I think a lot of people are questioning their undefeated records based on their schedules. It'll be interesting to see which team can stay undefeated the longest. Paloma Valley has a game with Elsinore. San G has a game with Rialto. Both of them have a very good opponent this week. Both can lose, both can win. We're going to find out a lot about what each team, how good they really are in their league openers.
Kyle, I'm glad you segued into that because that's where we're going next. So we've got 3 very good undefeated teams, but of course going into league play, as you said, the great equalizer who can keep the momentum going and cap off a perfect regular season. Will it be? We've got 3 teams we're going to talk about. Paloma Valley in the Sun Belt League, San Gorgonio in the San Andreas, and King in the Big 8. Now, if you had to pick one of them and say, you know what, I think this school has the best chance of just really running the table and finishing undefeated, who would you go with here?
I do think it's San Gorgonio. They are clearly the best team in the Eastern Division, south of the Cajon Pass. You look at the rest of that league, and there's definitely some good teams. Carter's a force to be reckoned with, as always, under Alex Pierce. Rialto and Javon Morgan have a lot of talent. But I just think San G they're just at a superior talent level to everyone else, once again, not just in their own league, but in the Eastern Division. And I think they're a superior talent level to a lot of teams in the Central Division. San G, to me, is the best chance to go undefeated. Similar, we saw Citrus Hill run through everyone last year, and you knew that last year's Citrus Hill team could probably hold their own if they had faced some Central Division contenders, maybe even a couple Inland Division teams. I think San G's having one of those types of seasons, and to me, they're not just the favorite of all those teams to go undefeated, they're the clear favorite.
Yeah. No offense to the other teams in the San Andreas, I just feel like San G has the easier road to the league championship. I mean, when you look at Paloma Valley's schedule, obviously you highlight Heritage as well as Elsinore, who they have on Friday, and then King. I mean, they play Corona on Friday, and then we know how the Big 8 goes. I mean,
I will say this for Paloma Valley. I think a lot of people are assuming right off the bat, oh yeah, once they'll get into league, they'll lose probably to Elsinore, and then they'll definitely lose to Heritage. I don't think it's so automatic. I do think Paloma Valley might be getting the short end of the stick a little bit in terms of perception. I think people are focusing too much on a weak non-league schedule and assuming that they're going to get blown out once they meet up with the big dogs in league play. That's a team that wiped out top seed Summit in last year's first round playoff game. And we know good quarterbacks win games, and they've got one of the best.
I picked that game. I was the only one to pick Paloma Valley to beat
I picked
Summit.
Paloma. Last
year when they played Summit in the first round, everyone picked Summit. And
so
I love the Skyhawks, but Paloma Valley, something about that flashy offense I just fall in love with, and they got a quarterback that goes by Bebo. What's not to love there? So
once again, San G, I believe, is the clear favorite to go undefeated, but I wouldn't count Paloma Valley out.
Well, KG, let me throw this out to you. Okay, so San G goes 10-0 during the regular season. They get to the playoffs. Citrus Hill, maybe not the, maybe a little vulnerable, maybe not the favorite to win the Eastern Division again. San G 13-14-0. How does that sound?
It's very possible. Like I said, Oak Hills up in Hesperia could give San G a run for their money. They match them in terms of athletes. Look, Citrus Hill, you can never count them out, even though they're mistake-prone and not quite as good as in past years. They can absolutely get hot in the playoffs and run the table. Talkwitz is a team you shouldn't ignore necessarily. Even Moval, they played a very good Paloma Valley team to the wire. If they get in and they get hot, there's so many possibilities, but I do think that San G has the inside track.
All right, once again, we are live at Adrenaline Athletic Training in Corona. They also have the Riverside location, but we're in Corona today for this blitz. And
heading south.
We are a little bit south. And
well, it's Big 8 week. Might as well be in the heart of it, right in Corona.
We are. What do they call Corona? The Circle City? Is that their
so, yeah,
city slogan? We got Javier Cabrera joining us here. Jav, you want to maybe pan over and get a shot of the girl soccer players over here? So at Adrenaline, they've got these star athletes everywhere. Leonard Russell's got a soccer ball, which I love because anyone who knows Leonard Russell, like KG here does, knows he was a big-time football star in the National Football League as well as Arizona State, but he'll get out there.
Another Arizona State alumnus around here, Mindy Cowles of the Arizona State 2008 National Champion softball team.
You're right at home around here.
I know. I feel so. I feel like I'm rocking my ASU lanyard. Maybe I should.
Are you really?
I think next one shot I should just rock my Fear of the Fork shirt when I come in. I'll fit right in.
Well, see, you can see some of these, the girls are doing, there's a couple boys out there too. They're doing some training right now, some cardio and just training, but they're going to do some soccer in just a little bit. I could probably hang with this group in terms of soccer and training. I'm not sure. Oh, there's a USC shirt out there though, Kyle. I don't know. You might have to take her on in soccer, Arizona State versus USC over there.
Well, we know ASU would win that matchup this year.
I don't know. She looks pretty tough over there. So
yeah, we also had some girls in the cage, and it was good to good to see some of the youngins get in there and really work. And I mean, these are young kids, but they're really getting put through high-level workouts. It's not all fun and games. They're going out and they're working hard.
All right, great job by Ja Rule behind the camera doing that for us. Yeah, high school stars, they got to start somewhere. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they start at a certain age, and the ones that are dedicated and put in the work, obviously, are the ones that are like Trey Watson and Corey Young, probably. Who,
and the ones who stay healthy. That's a huge part of it too.
And staying healthy, you're definitely right. All right, let's go back to the Sun Belt League. We talked about the premier matchup on Friday is Paloma Valley taking on Elsinore. Now, when I look at this matchup, it looks like Paloma Valley's high-scoring offense against an Elsinore team who can grind it out and play defense. How do you see this matchup?
I think Elsinore obviously has that reputation, tough. They're going to run the ball down your throat, and they're going to make stops on defense. But Paloma Valley's offense is so explosive. It is a matchup of contrasting styles. Most of the time, I'll pick the defense that's suffocating. But in this case, this particular matchup, I do think Paloma Valley has the explosiveness necessary to beat Elsinore. But once again, Tony Peralta and the Tigers, they know how to play. They're going to be well prepared. Once again, wouldn't be surprised to see either team come out on the winning end of this one. But it is always fun seeing that contrasting styles, that high-flying offense versus that ground and pound type attack.
Elsinore is one of those teams like Great Oak for me that I know they're good, but for some reason I always pick against them, and it comes back to bite me. I think I have Paloma Valley in this game, but if anyone looks at my track record, it's not very good picking winners anyway. So
and when I think back to some of the games that I can remember off the top of my head about Elsinore, the type of teams that beat them were the teams that did what they did just a little better. I think about a Serrano playoff game a couple years ago where Serrano's defense hit him a little harder, the running backs got free a little more, and that was the difference. So it might play into Elsinore's hands. Yeah, you go ahead and spread the field. We'll deck your wide receivers left and right. We'll see what happens.
Well, let me throw this out there. If you like to play the common opponent game, now they both played Temecula Valley. Elsinore had no problem thrashing Temecula Valley, but Paloma Valley got into maybe it was a little closer than what they expected, but it was a shootout, and it was a lot closer than what Elsinore did to Temecula Valley. Do you put any stock in what they did against the Golden Bears?
Not a ton. The common opponent game, when you're talking about early season, non-league, it's hard to really pull that stat out and use it and make it worthwhile, just because there's so many factors. You've got guys maybe not playing, nursing injuries they normally play through. Coaches are still trying to figure out what kind of personnel they have. A lot of these guys they've only seen in passing leagues. They don't know how they're going to do under the bright lights of Friday night. So I don't put a ton of stock into it. I still think that Paloma Valley is a very good team that's going to win plenty of games, no matter how close the game against Temecula Valley was. And I think Elsinore is a good team, independent of that Temecula Valley game. How this game is going to shake out is really going to be a matter of, can Paloma Valley get out in space, avoid the hard hits of Elsinore, and stop the run, maybe play a little bit of hard defense themselves. For Elsinore, it's going to be about slowing Paloma Valley down and keeping that offense off the field.
It would be exciting to see the Wildcats keep that undefeated record going into the Menifee Bowl against Heritage, who has dominated the Sun Belt League in recent years. So that would be a huge game. But first things first, Friday against Elsinore. All right. So
although you mentioned, don't get caught looking ahead. A lot of teams fall into that trap, so that's another thing to look out for.
I just fell into it right now, and I can't get out. I love looking ahead.
But but you think about a team like Paloma Valley. Maybe they're you can't get caught looking ahead and say, oh, Elsinore. Not that I think you could overlook Elsinore, but you get the point. City rivalry game against the #1 team. You can't get focused on that too early.
And we've also got Heritage against Paris, which the Patriots should roll to a victory there. Lakeside Temescal Canyon, though, could be a little more interesting, I guess. I mean, Lakeside has got off to a rocky start with Andy Pinward as head coach, but they're doing good things there, and they're getting better. Temescal Canyon kind of in a similar situation. I think maybe their record's not indicative of how good this Titans team might be.
Although, Temescal Canyon, I think, has been one of the bigger disappointments in the early going. You think about that 32-0 thrashing Temecula Valley handed them. I think a lot of people expected Temescal Canyon to be right in the thick of the Sun Belt League race. Now it's looking like they're going to be in the bottom half, and the fact we've been discussing, does Lakeside have a chance without an automatic no, I think tells you that Temescal Canyon's on a little bit shakier ground than maybe a lot of people expected them to be. Lakeside's still a work in progress. There's a lot of room to grow for that team. I think Temescal Canyon, if they don't win this game, has to look themselves in the mirror from the coaching staff down to the water boy.
All right, so that's the Sun Belt League, and speaking of going back to the Paloma Valley against Elsinore matchup, it's the classic, do you like offense, do you like defense? Who would you rather have a better of? Would you ride the defense all the way to championship, or do you want to get into a shootout and just try to let your offense fight fire with fire and win in that way? I mean, if you were the head coach, Kyle, of an inland area high school football team, I mean, would you really want to focus on defense and controlling the clock and running the ball, or would you say, hey, let's do it, let's go 40, 50 points and just see if someone can keep up with us? Kind of like a Centennial, I guess, or Paloma Valley.
I'm a young guy. I'm a big quarterbacks guy. I love throwing points up on the board. But to me, there is nothing more demoralizing than, when you're in offense and you're trying to do everything that's always worked for you, and there's a defense that just keeps stopping you and hitting you over and over and over, and you can't do anything against them, and then you never get the ball back. And I love the idea of sucking the life out of a team. I'm that type of competitor. I want a team to know that when they walk into my house, I want them walking down with their heads down, their tails between their legs, wishing they never had to see us again. And the best way to do that, to totally demoralize them, is to beat them up defensively and make sure the offense doesn't have the ball all that often. I think a shootout, you give the other team constant hope. Oh, we're down 3 touchdowns, but we can still get back in it.
Not a huge deal, yeah.
Right. But when you're just destroying them on, with your own defense,
you can't move the ball,
and you're hitting them hard, and their quarterback is getting destroyed every play, and the running back can't find a hole, that demoralizes a team really fast, and the competitor in me loves that.
Well, I'll take the defense, but for maybe a different reason here. Let's say you are in a shootout or a higher scoring game. All it takes is one stop, or a key stop or two to really swing the game. So if you're in a, it's 35-38 or whatnot, and both teams are having, pretty easy time going up and down the field, all it takes is that one stop to really swing the momentum of a game, at least. So even if you have a great offense, you've got to have a defense that can at least bend but not break, I guess you could say. Of
course, and we see that with a lot of these high-scoring games. Centennials put up 40 points, fairly consistently, but lost a couple. I mentioned on the U Pick'em show, I think this Roosevelt-Santiago game, there's a very good chance it's going to come down to which defense can make that one extra stop, because both these teams can put up points in a hurry.
All right, we've got Super Duper Jurupa Valley making their way into Adrenaline here in Corona. We're going to talk to the Jaguars in just a moment. But before we get to the River Valley League, Kyle, let's break down the Mountain Pass, and then we'll go to the River Valley. Citrus Hill, they've had their great run, but could this be the year that one of these teams knocks, the Hawks off? I mean, we saw them lose to King, but by no means does this mean Citrus Hill has a bad team. I mean, they're still obviously very, very good.
Of course, Citrus Hill, look, they're still the power, and it's hard to pick against them until they actually lose. That said, there's no question I think they're more vulnerable this year than they have been in past years. The Hawks make a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties, some bad turnovers, and right now the offensive line has not been playing all that great. P.J. Walker's struggling to find holes. If I'm Tockwitz, I'm licking my chops saying, okay, we have a shot to maybe do something. I think that probably is the only team that has a chance to beat Citrus Hill, but San Jacinto is always well coached, and with P.J. Murrieta and Malik Kimbrough, they can throw up some points in a hurry.
Who they have on Friday.
Yeah, that I don't think that's going to be a quote-unquote easy win by any means for Citrus Hill. I'd be surprised if, unless they fix a lot of the mistakes they're making, if they let San Jac hang around. I will say that I think, with Beaumont down, West Valley, starting from scratch, and Hemet wavering a little bit after that hot start, there's not as much of a threat as Citrus Hill as there possibly could be. For example, last year's Beaumont team would have beaten this year's Citrus Hill team.
That was a very good Cougars team last year.
Exactly. So, it goes year to year, but Citrus Hill definitely needs to be on watch. I'm still picking him to win the league. I'm still picking him to go undefeated in the league because, once again, I'm not going to pick against him until someone in the league actually beats them. But they're vulnerable, no question about it.
I agree. I've got Citrus Hill winning it as well. But the thing is, a lot of people might think they're ripe for the picking. But when you look at a team like Tockwitz, who might be, the best chance to dethrone Citrus Hill, they beat Temecula Valley last week, which is a good win for them, but they lost their quarterback in the process. So, I mean, going forward, how strong will the Titans be?
They've had a two-quarterback system. It's actually working for them okay, and we don't know the extent of that injury. I think Tockwitz still has the playmakers to win. It's going to be more about the intimidation factor. If they go in with confidence or if they're intimidated by the fact that, it's big, bad Citrus Hill, that's really, I think, going to have the biggest impact on if Citrus Hill loses that game or any other game. If other teams go in there with that, a little bit that awe in their eye, if you will.
All right, so that's the Mountain Pass League. Now let's get to the real good stuff, Kyle. The River Valley League. That's where it all happens. That's what it's all about. We're joined now by the head coach of Supa Dupa Jurupa Valley, Joe Gerez.
Joe,
one of our favorites here.
It's been a little while.
How's it going, Coach?
It's going good. Our kids are working hard. We're gearing up here for league. We're improving week by week, and we're having some great practices going into this. So we had a bye week after our win against Pacific and won our homecoming. So kids are fired up going into this week, and we're gonna face Moreno Valley, who's fast, but I think we're strong and we should be able to compete.
Now, Kyle and I were just talking that when you get to league play, it's kind of going back to 0-0, your record in sort of a way. I mean, maybe not the best start that you guys wanted, but, you got to be optimistic as you go into league play and kind of have a fresh start.
Yep, I agree 100%. I mean, we're looking at starting this 0-0, everybody's 0-0, and we're looking at basically trying to find our niche where we're going to end up in the River Valley League and hopefully continue to compete, and all the members in the league are still looking at the same thing with that 0-0 start, and what you did in the preseason doesn't matter. Fresh start, same thing, which is win a league championship and get in the playoffs.
Now, Coach, when I spoke to you during passing league, we talked a lot about your offensive line. You guys have a huge size advantage over a lot of your other league mates. And on top of that, you felt like that line could be what propels you to, maybe a third or fourth place finish. Going into league play, how is the offensive line performing?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that they've gained experience over the preseason. They're gearing up. Their play is better and better. If you look at what we did week 0 to where we ended up with our last preseason game, there's just been a steady improvement. Grading out wise, they went from grading down to that 40 percentile, and now they're getting close to that 80 percentile, which means we're getting all the technique and assignment things are all coming into play, and they just continue to get better and better. So we're hoping that is what definitely pushes us through. Our goal is to play smash mouth football, and we're going to do it behind our offensive line and our running backs.
Yeah, we've seen in the River Valley League some big plays. Ramona with the Mays brothers is going deep a lot. Moreno Valley with Dane Watkins at quarterback, they throw the ball deep. That old school ground and pound style, how do you feel like that matches up against those teams that like to run and gun a little bit?
Well, for us, the biggest difference is it allows us to control the clock, grind out the clock. Some of those schools you're mentioning, the Moreno Valley schools, they have a lot of speed. They have a lot of talent, a lot of speed, and if we get in a foot race, we'll end up losing. So for us to be able to ground, keep it on the ground, ball possession, and control the game in that manner, that's what we're looking to do. And that's why we're looking to continue what we started, which is smash mouth football and push people around.
Now, Coach, you brought 4 of your players with you today. Tell us who you brought with us.
Well, we got Guillermo Anguiano, who's one of our defensive linemen, Brandon Parker, one of our offensive linemen, our running back, George Camacho, and one of our offensive linemen, Leo Duarte. That's who we brought today.
All right, we're going to toss it over to Pep Fernandez. Pep, tell us a little bit about the Jaguars.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, standing next to, look at these guys. Got their arm. Look, come on, guys. Let's be tough. Right here. Take pictures at home if you want. Take one. Tough guy look. All right, guys. So maybe not the best start to your season, but heading into the River Valley League, brand new year for you guys. I mean, what kind of expectations do you have for Jurupa Valley as you go into the River Valley League?
I believe that during league we will beast it. I'm not like trying to be cocky.
Beast mode?
Yeah, beast mode. You know, turn that on so that way we can at least make it into CIF playoffs and do what we haven't been able to do in like the last years.
All right, before I get to you, can I see the side of your head? I mean, this is serious. I mean, Jurupa Valley is ready for Moreno Valley. Think Pink, Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, so it's a great cause, and obviously the Jaguars are behind that. But just talk about playing the Vikings on Friday and trying to right the ship for the Jaguars and get some wins in league play.
Definitely looking forward to league. I mean, preseason was obviously kind of tough, but really looking forward, playing on Friday. I mean, league starts 0-0, and we kind of want to set the tone where previous, Jaguar teams haven't. Kind of been, not really taken seriously, and we kind of want to turn that, reputation around. We want to be known as one of those schools not to be messed with.
Absolutely, and George, I mean, going into league play, you feel like you guys can still play your best football? You feel like, the non-league was a good learning experience, and now you're in league, you can play some of your best football still?
Yeah, I feel like we've improved over the preseason, and that we're a lot better team than when we started.
Awesome, and same thing for you. I mean, Jurupa Valley going into league play kind of erases all those non-league games, but I'm sure you guys learned from it. But going into the River Valley, I mean, you feel like you guys have a chance to compete.
I do believe that, because if you look at us from the beginning, game 1, we weren't that great, because obviously our record proves it. But going into River Valley, we're all start all over. It's a new start, and I think we're ready for it.
You feel like game by game you guys were getting better as the season went on? I mean, you guys beat Pacific, the last time you guys were on the field.
Yeah, definitely. We've improved so much. Like, as a team, everyone individually, just shows the effort we put in at practice just shows in the game that it improves you.
Guys, I don't bite. You can come back. It's all right. Come on over. Come back. I'm not done with you guys. You guys came all the way from Super Duper Jurupa Valley. Got to get a couple more questions in with these guys. What, pretty long drive?
Yeah, it was a pretty long drive. Pretty eventful too with Jess.
With who?
Jess, Coach's wife. She's a nice lady.
Oh yeah. Hold on. Okay, so why was it eventful? Is she a jokester or what's going on?
Oh, you have no idea. Jokes for days, and her driving questionable, but hey, it's cool. I mean, the roads were wet, so you can't really blame the pedestrians on that. So.
But you know what? She got here safely and got you guys here safely, so that's all that matters. Talk about Coach. I mean, he's a former Jaguar himself. Obviously, he wants to restore, a winning tradition to Jurupa Valley. So, I mean, how important is it for you guys to, help Coach out and get some wins?
It means a lot, because he's a great coach, even though he messes with us a lot, calling us fat and slow, but still pretty nice. We got to get some wins for him. Start last season, my last season, them too. He needs to get some more wins for him as well, but we respect him as coach.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like Maury Povich or someone, like everyone's spilling their guts to me out here on the air, but that's all right. So George, same thing. I mean, obviously you guys want to get some wins. Coach has the extra incentive because he did play, for Jurupa Valley.
Yeah, we love Coach. He's a great coach, but he does yell at us a lot. Sometimes for reasons that we don't even know why.
Builds character.
Yeah, builds character.
All right, down here on the end, I'm going to scoot over. So, there's still a chance you guys can make the playoffs. You need to put together a great run in the River Valley League. I mean, what's it going to take to be competitive in the River Valley?
Don't stop the grind. Keep pushing forward, and don't stop till the whistle blows.
Beast mode, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, the Jurupa Valley Jaguars, they're hoping for a big season in the River Valley League. Still a lot of football to be played in 2013. Now let's go back to KG with Coach Gerez. We're going to talk to him a little bit more. And as we're, I guess, playing pranks, I got a little more for him, too, coming. So get ready, Coach. You got to be on your toes.
Thanks, Pep. So, Coach, one thing I noticed is, obviously you have that old school ground and pound mentality, but you guys are also, a pretty loose bunch. I think a lot of people assume, those old school guys, just gruff, no nonsense. But you guys, keep it pretty light. I mean, how do you guys balance that out?
Well, I'm an offensive lineman. That's the way I was kind of groomed when I played football. So, and I had a fortunate where I had a lot of coaches that, they'd chip at you in this. But the point was to get you a thick skin. So when adversity comes or things aren't going quite the way you want them to, that you're able to bounce back and you're able to, just let those little things bounce off. So when the important things come, that you can face them head on and go forward. So, they'll mention that I do, get on them a little bit, and a lot of them they're like, but a lot of it is just me trying to get them a thick skin. And bottom line is we're playing football. We're in high school. They need to enjoy it, and I want them to remember. I want them coming back. At one point I had 8 of my assistant coaches all had played for me at one point or another in other high schools. So, I want that bond, that type of relationship where they enjoyed what they played, and wins will come, and hopefully there are our big goals of getting to the playoffs and competing for a league title are there as well. But we want them to have fun and want them to remember that they were a Jaguar for life.
Now, Kyle, we love the Jaguars here. We love Coach Gerez. So we're going to have a little fun with him real quick. So, Coach, I don't know if you can see from over there. Let me move your awesome helmet, one of my favorites. Does
put a lot of work into that helmet. Stripes.
Does that look familiar to you? if not, hold on, I've got another one for you. Kyle, do you know who that is?
Stacey Ferguson, Fergie.
Fergie. So, Coach, do you know Fergie?
Yes, I know Fergie. Me and Fergie went to school together. Prior to Jurupa Valley opening up, me moving out to the Riverside area, I attended Wilson High School in Hacienda Heights. She was a cheerleader for our football team, and we'd hang out at lunch and have lunch and stuff. So, yes, I did know Fergie, and we used to make fun of her all the time because she was on Kids Incorporated when she was young. So we'd walk down the hall, and I'd be like, "Hey, hi," and then we'd duck behind the lockers before she threw something at us. So, she's a very, very nice lady, and I'm glad to see that she's had that much success in her life. And I heard she's had a baby in the whole 9 yards, so I'm happy for her.
Married to Josh Dumel or something like that. Kyle's
so any chance,
transformer guy. There you go.
So any chance you can get her to come out and show some Jurupa Valley support, like Ashley
National
Judd,
anthem.
Ashley Judd,
Coach,
Kentucky,
national anthem.
Kentucky basketball?
She's a little big time. I don't know if I'm just saying. I don't know if I have deep enough pockets to get her out to come visit, but you never know. You never know what could happen.
All right, I'm glad you brought up Kids Incorporated because we have a pop quiz about Fergie real quick.
I'm fired.
Now,
Might as well just stop right there.
So we like to have fun on the show. It's not about all X's and O's. Did you watch Kids Incorporated?
Oh, vaguely.
Okay.
It was. Yeah, you're gonna stump me on any questions from there.
Okay. Well,
not to make you feel old, I don't know what Kids Incorporated is.
It's basically a version of like Nickelodeon nowadays. You know what I mean? It's just it was a bunch of kids on a show, and they were dancing around
singing,
and do skits and stuff like that. And I think everybody that was on Kids Incorporated from her little generation all went big time, made their own movies, the whole 9 yards. So they all went big time. So it's one of those things where you never know.
All right, so Coach. So
I'm just gonna give you the mic all together.
No man, I'm just worried now.
Just a couple questions, just real quick. So she obviously gained a lot of fame with the Black Eyed Peas group. Do you know the groups that she sang in prior to the Black Eyed Peas?
Yeah, one of them. Wild Orchid.
Oh, whoa. She got some help from over
Wild
here.
Orchid.
Correct. That is correct.
One of them I can get you. That's it.
All right. So another Fergie question for you, Coach Gerez. She also was the voice of a very popular cartoon and a very popular character when she was younger. Do you know the name of the series of that cartoon?
No.
Yeah, I thought you knew Fergie. I thought you guys.
I'm not going to phone a friend. I don't.
No, there's no phone a friend on this show.
I didn't even realize she was did a cartoon with a voice.
I had to go to the entertainment writers at the PE and gather information because I didn't know this either. I guess she did the voice of Sally in the Peanuts series, including Snoopy Gets Married and several of the Peanuts movies. So.
The movies. Okay.
So.
Right. Okay. No, that's a good one. I didn't know that.
And they wanted me to ask you this, and this is a little more detailed.
They wanted you to ask me something?
Yeah, they did.
Really?
Well, I sit next to the entertainment writer, so this is what I get. They're like, oh, ask him this. He should know this. But in the Kids Are Incorporated intro, I guess the introduction to the show was very popular, and a lot of people, I don't know, memorized it. They would recognize it. I guess she was kind of the end of it, and she was sitting on something. Do you remember what she was sitting on? Because I guess it was kind of iconic for the intro for whatever reason. I don't know why.
I thought it was the letters to the show.
She was a letter. She was a letter as well. But right prior to, I guess she shot up into the Kids Incorporated word. But she was sitting on something. They said, oh, if Coach Gerez is a fan of Fergie, he'll know what she was.
I never said I was a fan.
Now she's never going to sing the anthem at your game. Come on, we're trying to. She was sitting on a pinball machine, and I guess it was.
I just remember the letter. I haven't seen the show in God knows how long.
I guess she was sitting on a pinball machine, and then she shoots up, and she like is the exclamation or dots the I or something in the
We're gonna
intro.
have to YouTube this. I'm not sure if that's correct. I think they're making stuff up.
Well, you know what, Coach, thank you. We like having a good time. We appreciate you, having a good laugh here. But we appreciate you coming on the show and talking about the River Valley League. And we wish the best for you and the Jaguars moving forward with Moreno Valley beginning on Friday nights.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having us on. The boys love being here.
All right, yeah, no, they're spilling their guts. Maybe we should have them more on more often.
Still looking like tough guys.
Yeah, arms crossed. Yeah, there you go.
Wait till Monday.
One more
We'll see
shot,
how
huh?
tough they are during conditioning.
There, look at that. The pose. Beast mode, right, guys? Beast mode. Oh, yeah. Is that discount double check? Yeah. Is your last name Rogers? No, okay. That's close enough. All right, folks, the Jurupa Valley Jaguars playing Moreno Valley in Week 6. One more time, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
We appreciate it.
All right,
I hope your wife's going to drive safely back home. So
You don't see me again, you know what happened.
oh my goodness. Jaguars Vikings Friday night. We will have highlights of this game on the HS Game Time live show and in the Saturday scouting report. So you guys are free to take off. We really appreciate it. Safe travels. Be careful. You guys better watch what you say around Coach. We don't want to get you in trouble anymore. All right, see you guys. So the Jurupa Valley Jaguars, obviously some good dudes to just kind of have some fun with us. And, we do break down games and we talk about the X's and O's, but we also like to have a little fun.
That's the thing. I mean, it's high school football. I think a lot of times people take it way too seriously. You get on the message boards and you have people treating it like it's the NFL. Someone loses, someone should be fired, someone should be kicked off a team. It's these are kids having a good time, learn the game of football. And, Coach Gerez took over at Jurupa Valley. It's a program that hasn't had a lot of success. I believe it was one playoff appearance in the last 13 years, something to that degree. And he's slowly building it back up. He's giving them an identity as that ground and pound offensive line based school. It'll be a couple years, but you look at the River Valley League. It's not like there's it's a new league. There's no team has really established itself as the unbeatable powerhouse in it. There's no reason Jurupa Valley can't build and grow and eventually get to a point where they're annually contending for playoff berths again under Joe Gerez.
I think a lot of people figure Norte Vista is the team to beat. They did win the inaugural River Valley League title last season. Moreno Valley might be there as well, but who's not to say this could be wide open. Jurupa Valley is young, but they got some size. You went out there. They've got some size up front.
Yeah, obviously, they don't have size compared to the teams in the Citrus Belt League or the Big 8, but when you move down to the River Valley League, the Eastern Division, there's not that many big linemen. You don't really see that many guys who are, 6'3", 280. You see sometimes offensive linemen that are 5'10", 200.
Yeah.
And that's one advantage they have. Now, size isn't everything. You have to have agility. You have to know your assignments, but it's a good start. It's a good base for them to have.
All right, good luck to Jurupa Valley as they take on Moreno Valley on Friday. Now, the Jaguars beat Pacific for their first win of the season, which leads us into our next segment. Kyle, who will win their first game this season? Will it be Pacific, the Pirates with Don Markham, or La Sierra taking on Patriot on a Thursday night special, or Miller, who is playing Ukaipa on Friday night? Who do you like? Who do you think will get their first win of the season first?
I think the team that'll get their first win of the season first will be Pacific, just because I think the matchup that they have is the easiest one. Truth be told, I don't think either of those three teams will win this week, but if I look at the leagues they're playing in, I don't think Miller has a chance to really win a game until they face Cajon, the final game this season. I don't know if they'll win that one. You look at La Sierra. I think they do have a chance to win a game. I don't know if it's against Patriot. Patriot, they're all right. They're not great, but they're all right. They're a formidable foe. I think Pacific, playing San Bernardino, a team that has had as many struggles as they have. I believe Pacific won last year's matchup with a similar, 1-9 team that couldn't really beat anyone else. So I think the Pirates are sort of the safe bet. But La Sierra Patriot, it's interesting. It is possible.
Now, La Sierra by no means was blown out by Corona the previous week. So, as we said, there was a coaching change over the summer. It's going to take some time to kind of build that up. So maybe they will be better as the season progresses, and when they get to the league play, maybe they'll battle Patriot. But a lot of people are high on the Warriors. I mean, they played King tough. I mean, that game could have went the other way.
The Patriots, a team, a lot of people are talking about. They've obviously, had some good, some bad. I don't know if they're necessarily a team that can be expected to compete for the playoffs, but they're definitely a respectable opponent that I think if La Sierra wants to beat, they're going to have to bring their A game.
All right, I will also go with the Pirates. I think Don Markham will work his Markham magic, maybe against San Bernardino and the Cardinal City. He's turned around a lot of programs. He's done it before. Obviously, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, if you want to use the cliche, so it's going to take some time. But I'll go with Pacific as well. And for the first win of the season.
Now, I will say, if you would ask me which of those three teams has the best chance to not go winless, my answer is La Sierra. I think at some point La Sierra has the best chance to
in the River Valley.
Out of all those teams, I think La Sierra is the team that has the chance to finish with the most wins at the end of the regular season.
You probably agree. Miller probably has the toughest road. I mean, the Citrus Belt, not a dominant team, I guess, this season, but still a lot of very good teams.
Right. Miller won't be favored in any game they play. Like I said, I look at that Cajon game as maybe their best chance, but even that one's iffy. We've seen Cajon; they've looked really good and really bad. So depending on which Cajon shows up, I think Miller's going to have their work cut out for him. Although Miller has had a couple, I believe 3 of their 5 losses have been by a touchdown or less. So they're not totally getting blown out.
All right, Kyle. We're going to do a new segment, and hopefully we'll do this each week. We'll continue this. It's, an upset. Give me an upset special. A game on Friday that maybe you're going against the grain and you're going to pick a school that you think will surprise some people. Is there a game out there, a team out there that you think will pull off an upset on Friday night?
Oh, boy.
Or should I go first?
Go first.
I got mine because, too bad Coach already left because I was going with Jurupa Valley. Super-duper Jurupa Valley against Moreno Valley. The Vikings have had some, quarterback issues. Dane Watkins was hurt. They put in Justice Tyler, who actually played very well against Paloma Valley, nearly beat the Wildcats. Dane's back in there. They're very good. They got a lot of good skill guys. But I'm going with Jurupa Valley. They're big, they're strong. You saw Coach, he's passionate, he wants to win. He played at Jurupa Valley, so he has a vested interest in trying to rebuild the program because that's where he got his start, essentially. So I'm going to go with Jurupa Valley. River Valley League play, I think they can maybe go 2-3, maybe 3-2.
I believe they went 2-3 last year, so it's not like they're coming off an 0-6 season. They've shown they can win games in River Valley League.
They certainly were not bad last season, so I'll go with Jurupa Valley against Moreno Valley as my mild upset, I would say, against the Vikings.
There isn't really a game this week that jumps out at me as, there's definitely a game that I could see, I think that'll happen. 2 games that come to mind as definite possibilities. Arlington and Poly. Arlington's playing better. They're sort of finding themselves after the rough start to the season. I think there's a chance they could catch Poly sleeping. Thursday night, it's at Ramona, big city rivalry game. Once again, I personally would pick Poly to win, but I think that's an upset watch type of game. Then the other one we talked a little bit about earlier, Lakeside Temescal Canyon. Temescal Canyon has not been the team I think a lot of us thought they'd be. Lakeside, if they've progressed through non-league play, if they come out fired up, that's an upset watch type of a game.
And I caught up with Lakeside when the season began at one of their practices, and the Lancers and their head coach Andy Penwarden definitely put an emphasis on those in-town rivals, Elsinore and Temescal Canyon. Now the Tigers might be on a different plateau at this point as they're still trying to build that relatively new program, but Temescal Canyon might be a team they can knock off in terms of just playing another in-town team that they would like to have some bragging rights, I guess.
Definitely.
All right, Kyle, I grabbed the helmet. You know what that means.
Jurupa Valley, tell me why.
Tell me why. So I'm going to throw these in here.
All right. Mix them up.
Mix them up real good. All right. And I typed them up and printed them
nice
extra large because I saw you took your glasses off. So You know what? I'll draw the first one for you.
Okay.
All right, so Kyle, tell me why Norco will be Centennial's toughest matchup this season.
Because Norco has the experience and size on the offensive line to punish Centennial. Very few teams Centennial is going to face this entire year can say that. Corey Young also might be the best pure running back that Centennial is going to face all season. So let's see. An offensive line that can punch in the mouth and a really, really, really talented running back. Yeah, that's a very difficult matchup. And I look at a lot of the other teams Centennial's played. They all have different strengths. But in terms of that offensive line, and then you add Arthur Tuison, transfer from Roosevelt, now as a fullback who's really a linebacker and hits like a linebacker off the blocks. Yeah, that Centennial, could definitely come away from this more beat up, even if they win, more beat up than at any other game they've played this season. I can absolutely see that happening.
All right, Corey Young is buff. Go ahead and pick another one. And remember, tell me why. We have to make a case. Whether we agree with it or disagree with it, we still have to make a case for it.
Pep, tell me why Notre Dame is the favorite to win the Mountain Valley League.
Okay, if you go back to last season, now Banning and Rim of the World kind of ran away with this league. I mean, they were 1-2, and Banning won the league crown, but Rim of the World went on to win the East Valley Division Championship in CIF. But I think this year it just appears a little bit more wide open. Now, Rim of the World doing great things up on the mountain. The younger brother of Jacob Taylor having a big season. Banning is down. Jurupa Hills will be a factor. I just see it as there's an opening. The door is open. Someone can walk through that door. Notre Dame has got off to a great start, 4-1. The offense is playing very well. Wesley Smith is a monster. I mean, that guy is great. They've got Paulie Guaps, Paul Bradvica to Jeremy McMaster. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch from quarterback to receiver. So I just think, the Mountain Valley League is ripe for the picking, and Notre Dame could be that team to make it happen this season. All right. I'll
go ahead. It's all you.
Of course.
Don't want to double dip on you.
No double dipping here. All right, Kyle. Tell me why Roosevelt versus Santiago is a must-win game for both teams.
Well, we already talked about it. Both of these teams need as many quality wins as they can get because it's going to be a dogfight getting those playoff berths out of the Big 8 with Centennial and Norco playing well. And you know what? If King, pulls an upset somewhere and all of a sudden they're, 7-3 with 2 league wins, they're going to be right in the playoff hunt. So for both of these teams, a win would give them a quality win over a good league opponent, and that's just so valuable. You really can't even put that into words how valuable that can be if your ultimate goal is to make the playoffs and go far, which it is for both of these squads.
All right, we got a couple more, so let's go through these kind of quickly.
All right, Pep.
Yes.
Tell me why Yucaipa is the favorite to win at the Citrus Belt League.
All right. Now, Redlands East Valley and Redlands, the two schools that a lot of people just, pencil in as the league champions, they're both down this year. Redlands East Valley is hurt. Redlands has some talent. I'm still waiting for, to see them put it together because I think they can be very good. Eisenhower was a co-champion last year in the Citrus Belt, and they're off to a great start, kind of, I don't know, to me at least under the radar, but they had a bad loss at La Quinta last week, which I thought for sure Ike would beat La Quinta. And like I said, Rev is hurting, and Redlands, I'm still waiting to see them live up to their potential. So that's why I got Yucaipa. Yucaipa's off to a pretty good start. BG3, the quarterback, to Brandon Scott, the big receiver / tight end. They've got some great players, and they're off to a good start. So if anyone can win the CBL, I would say Yucaipa may be the front runner at this point.
And one thing I want to point out, going with both the Notre Dame question and the Yucaipa question, we talked about last week. It's quarterback-driven leagues a lot of times, and you can argue that Bradvica and Gustafson are the two best quarterbacks in their respective leagues. Now, there's competition. You have
Cody Whitaker at Redlands.
Well, I would say Damian Wright down at Bills, and then Marquand Harris at Ike. I think those would actually be the biggest competitors for the best quarterback title. But you could argue Bradvica and Gustafson, and if it's a quarterback-driven league, there you go.
I love it because it's both situations in both leagues. I mean, we could have a 3-way tie for league. I mean, something weird could happen.
I was actually thinking about this on my drive into work today. I think it's a sign I work too much in my head, saying
you're breaking down the high school playoff scenarios.
Yeah, Ike, Rev, Yucaipa, each 4-1, each beating each other.
Yeah.
And then the rest are 2-3, 1-5, 0-6. Once again, or 0-5. Whatever the numbers are, I think I work too much, but I definitely thought that on my drive into work today.
That could definitely happen, as well as in the Mountain Valley League. Kind of, man, we were thinking the same thing. All right, wait, did you ask me, or did I ask you? I'll ask you. There's one more left. I'll ask you, then you ask me. Okay, so Kyle.
I usurped your answer a little bit. Last one. There we go. That's what it was.
Tell me why Summit will win out, and they will capture the Sunkist crown.
Well, first of all, the Sunkist League right now is not all that good. Kaiser has shown that they're not what they used to be. And let's go down the list. You know, Fontana, they won those 2 games, but they still have work to do. Bloomington's in the midst of a very rough season. You go down through it, Summit still has the best playmakers in Eric Brown and Jordan Washington. The quarterback, Kashawn Fleming, is getting healthy. They had some injuries and a decently tough schedule in the early goings. That's still a team that has arguably the most talent in the Sunkist League. And even though they're 1-4, we talked about it, tough non-league schedule, maybe not the best indicator of their true talent level. And the Sunkist League is just so down this year. You know, I could see Summit without much difficulty running 5-0 through the league without much problem. Now, I could also see them going like 2-3, but can they go 5-0? Absolutely.
Another league where we see a 3-way tie for first.
Yeah, between Colton, Grand Terrace, Kaiser, and Summit.
I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah, you never know.
Well, Kaiser had that decade of dominance. They won the league title 10 years in a row in the 2000s. Then Summit's won it the last couple years. But Kaiser's obviously down. The Central Division champs, they've taken a couple tough losses in recent weeks.
And it's ripe for the picking. I mean, every time I think a team steps up, Colton looks really good, playing with Sanji, and then they go out and then have a bad loss. Kaiser, you can't figure out what they've got going on, and then their loss to Cajon just keeps looking worse and worse, so you don't know what they have. Grand Terrace, they've got some guys, but who knows how they'll do in league play. And is Fohai for real? 2 wins, we don't know. It's just that
Rule over here says
that's the league to me that has the most, pick a name out of a hat, there's your league winner.
Yeah.
And Summit, like I mentioned, those playmakers and that recent history of success, a lot of those players were on the team that was, the #1 overall seed last year in the playoffs. They know how to win.
Yep. Okay, so there is a chance for Summit. And quickly, a big shout out to Colton High School's Levante Wilson. Injured his wrist, actually, Kyle, last game against Carter. Had to have surgery on it this week. He still played last week.
Wow.
He injured his wrist, still played, then had to have surgery on it. So he's out for the season. He's one of their star linebackers and running backs. So a tough loss for Colton. All right, one more, and then we're going to bring on a very, very special guest.
All right, Pep.
Yes.
Tell me why. We talked about this a little earlier. Tell me why Vista Murrieta's league winning streak will end this season.
See, that's a tough one. I guess it's like any good thing must come to an end. I don't know if it's going to be this year or maybe 10 years from now, but eventually you can't be good every single year, right? Well, here's my case. Okay, so Vinny Fazio is a winner. He won at Carter as an assistant. He won at Eisenhower last year, Co-Citrus Belt League Championship. Now he's at Murrieta Valley. I love his brand of bad mood football. His teams play physical, they play fast. That's kind of like what Vista Murrieta sees in the mirror, I guess. A lot of good athletes that play fast, they can hit hard. So if anyone's going to fight fire with fire, I think it's going to be Murrieta Valley. But once again, as I said before, I always discount Great Oak, and I don't know why. So I think Great Oak will probably give them a game just for the simple fact that I don't give them enough credit. So maybe the Wolfpack will also be that team to finally knock off Vista.
Don't count out Chaparral as a team that can play. They can hang.
All right, now our very special guest before we close out the show, former UCLA and NFL standout Paco Craig, who
Paco,
from Ramona High School. Paco, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, man.
How are you doing? Do you still follow high school football locally?
I do, but since all these conference changes every year, man, it's kind of hard to keep up all these new teams and everybody's switching around all the time, so it's a little hard to keep up. But
all right, well, let me put you on the spot. Then, do you know what league the Rams are in? Because they've been jumping around in recent years.
Is that Sunkist League you guys are talking? No?
River Valley League.
River Valley. See, I would have never guessed that, man.
Ramona's been jumping around all over the place.
Yeah, they've been having a little bit of a hard time these last few years.
Well, they went 0-10 last year.
Right.
They're 2-3 right now, so slowly they're turning things around. I mean, what do you remember about your playing days at Ramona? Because you guys were great, right?
We were great, man. I mean, it was just a competitive league. A lot of hard hitting back then. Wouldn't have those rules that they have nowadays.
Yeah.
So a little more running the ball. But it was real physical back then also. And there was a lot of good talent. Everybody's talking about the talent they have nowadays, but there was talent back when I was playing also. So.
we've had, a couple different ex-pros come on and talk about what advice they give to kids. So you were a wide receiver, correct?
Correct.
So say you have a young, 15, 16-year-old wide receiver come up to you and says, help me get to the next level. What's the first thing you tell them and first thing you work with them on?
Well, the first thing I tell them is just never stop. Don't let anybody get in the way of working on your skills every day. Because what happens with football, it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. You might not be getting as much playing time as you'd like, and you come out to the practice field and you kind of ho-hum it or go through the motions. Never go through the motions. Always work on your craft every day. And that's what you have to do, and just stay at it and stay confident. And ask questions, just like if you were had a new job or something like that. Ask questions. What do you got to do to get better? It's all the same cliche type things, but definitely work on your craft every day and try to get better.
So this is something I've always had kind of a debate about. When you look at a young wide receiver, do you rather have someone with great speed and so-so hands, or so-so speed and great hands?
That's a good question, because I think speed and those combine things, I think it's a little overrated sometimes, and they don't get the football aspect. I always tell my kids or receivers, I say, hey, you're a football player first, and then you're a wide receiver second. So that means you got to block. You got to, do the things that make you a good football player. But and that's a tough question, though, because you want to have that speed these days, but at the same time, if you give me a guy with just average speed and good hands and has a good head on his shoulders, I'll make him into a good receiver, or you'll be a good receiver if you do that. So it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up question.
Paco, when you look back at your career, you went from Ramona to UCLA. I mean, what do you think was the difference from, getting to that next level, getting that scholarship, going Division I, and playing for a premier college football team?
You just have to be a student of the game. It was a real basic game in high school, and then to make that jump from high school, being a running back to a receiver in a sophisticated offense that we had at UCLA even back then, it was a challenge. But I've always been a student of the game, so I kind of welcomed it. But it was tough, but I think it's easier to go. For me, it was easier actually from UCLA to go pro than from high school to go to UCLA. So it was kind of weird, but our game was so sophisticated at that time at UCLA that it was a lot easier transition for me then. But yeah, so I'd say that.
Now, your alma mater Bruins are having a nice little comeback after a couple down years. What do you think?
God, you know what? Everybody's kind of SC out here, so I've been hearing it for a long time. So it's great to see them winning again, and they treat me great up there still, so I kind of have carte blanche up there. So it's been good, man. I mean, I hope they, keep doing their thing and, get this thing back going again like how we had it back in the day.
Kyle here went to Arizona State. Do the Sun Devils and Bruins play this season?
They do, November 23rd.
Oh,
November 23rd. Well, I have tickets.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, tickets.
So,
well, the best thing I remember about Arizona State was my senior year. I got player of the game that week, so.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
And we beat them. They were ranked. We were underdogs that week, but hey, we went in there and Troy threw me a couple touchdown passes. So
do you remember
I love Arizona State.
Stats from that game?
You know what? Actually, I had about 5 catches, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Losing to an unranked team when we're ranked does sound like something my alma mater would do. We just saw it last week against Notre Dame, so it sounds about right.
Right, but the Pac-12 is competitive right now, so it's fun to watch them right now. I mean, they're doing real good, so. It's a great thing. It's football season, man, and it's on right now.
Absolutely. Now, do you still work with a lot of young kids? What are you doing these days?
Well, right now I do a little real estate business, and plus I come here to Adrenaline Athletic, and I work out with some wide receivers here. So it's fun. It's a way for me to give back. I think I have a lot of knowledge right now still. And although the game has kind of changed a bit, but the fundamentals still always stay the same. So. I like to come back here, give back what I can. I work with Leonard and Tim Tiller and them over here, so it's been fun for me to come out here and work with these younger kids as well as high school kids, so it's been good.
Now, it wasn't that long ago that you played at UCLA, and you had a stint in the NFL as well. I mean, is there a current college wide receiver, a star wide receiver, or maybe someone in the NFL you're like, he kind of reminds me of me? I mean, the way he plays, maybe his stature. I mean, is there someone that you'd say, hey, that's a modern day Paco Craig right there on the field?
Well, that's hard to. I'm trying to think who can I?
Calvin Johnson, right?
Yeah, Calvin Johnson, 6'5". Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah,
it's kind of tough right now for me to compare. That's a tough question right now to ask you right now. I'm trying to think.
Maybe?
Yeah, you know what? Deshaun Jackson might be a little speedier than I was, but yeah, I would say the same size, same type game.
Yeah.
Kind of go deep, kind of tough over the middle, make some catches. So yeah, I would guess. I don't want to sit here and say I'm Deshaun Jackson though. Don't get it twisted. I know. Yeah,
Deshaun Jackson is a modern day Paco Craig.
There you go.
I said it.
Hey,
right
I'll take that all day long.
So Paco, in terms of kids you're working with now. Is there anyone that you see now in the high school football landscape that maybe you've worked with, you say, this kid's got something?
You know what? Right now, I haven't been working with very many high school kids, but I've been working with actually my son, Jose. So he's not doing too bad. So he's doing pretty good. But right now, there's not really very many guys that I've been working with right now. There was a couple guys at Notre Dame High School that I worked with, the receivers that were pretty good, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing right now. But I've been a little busy watching my son playing, so I haven't got a chance to go out there and watch those guys.
Do you want to coach, Paco? I mean, if you're around the game, I mean, do you have that urge to maybe get back in it?
I always want to at least teach. You want to be out there. You want to get on the grass all the time. It's just tough right now, you know, to get out there. And, you know, I got a family of 5, and you know, they keep me busy, but you know, I still love the game, and man, anytime I get an opportunity to go out there and do something, I'll definitely do it.
What do you miss most about your playing days? A lot of guys say the camaraderie, just being in the locker room, being around the other guys. But what do you miss about your days at UCLA and as well as the National Football League?
I used to love pregame. Just getting in there, getting dressed, getting taped up, you know, making sure everything's looking right. You know, I was a wide receiver. Right? You know, you got to be pretty still. So, you know, why
are the receivers the divas? They're always the divas on the team.
I was one, man. I'll tell you right now. But yeah, just getting my tape, you know, getting everything ready to go play, you know, and just being focused for the game in the locker room. Kind of, you know, some games you're loose, some games you're a little, you know, a little more serious. So I kind of miss the, you know, like you said, kind of the locker room, the pregame, and getting prepared for the game. Once you get the game, I mean, that's it. But the preparation and right before the game was best for me. That's what I miss the most.
All right, you got anything else, Kyle? All right, the great Paco Craig. We cannot thank you enough, Paco, for coming down and joining us on the Blitz. We really appreciate it. And
well, thanks for having me. It's been fun, you know, anytime, man. Go Bruins, right?
Go. Tell Kyle over here. Remind him, go Bruins, right?
We haven't played Arizona State yet. I'll wait till after that game's over.
You're on.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Paco. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, sit next to a Bruin, Kyle. Are you all right? You're good, Paco. You're the man. You can do whatever you want. It's your world.
Yeah, no, you know what? UCLA is I'm not going to lie, that's a real fun football team to watch right now. You see what Brett Hundley's doing, what Jim Moore has done. You know, I've been training recently out in San Bernardino, Camp Coyote, and getting prepped for the season, and it's working for them.
And a ton of IE guys on that team: Kylie Fitz, Kenny Clark, Craig Lee. Who am I missing?
Those are
Ryan Hoffmeister, Jordan James.
No, there's definitely a nice little Inland Empire presence, and all those guys.
Mawala, I'm sorry.
And a lot of those guys are playing, you know, premier roles. You know, they're not, you know, sitting on the bench, you know, 7th stringers, you know, on the practice squad. I mean, we're seeing highly recruited freshmen. We're seeing guys who are fighting for starting jobs. And Jordan James has really emerged as you know, one of the primary ball carriers for the Bruins. And you know, if UCLA is going to go far, Jordan James is going to have a big role in that. You know, helping Brett Hundley and the offense out. Yeah,
a lot of people thought it was going to be running back by committee, but Jordan James kind of pushed himself to the front. And
Paul Perkins is getting carries too, but Jordan James, you know, you look at the depth chart, he's listed as #1 or has been for most of the year.
Corona High School grad. All right, before we go, real quick, Kyle, give me your adrenaline player of the week. Some guy on Friday night who's just really going to step up and carry his team to a win.
You go first.
All right, I'm looking at my list. I'm going to go with P.J. Murrieta at San Jacinto. I think he needs to have a big game to beat Citrus Hill. The Hawks, when they're at home, they're very tough to beat. And I'm not saying I think San Jacinto is going to beat them, but I think he is very key. If P.J. Murrieta can have a big game, hooking up with Malik Kimbrough, don't turn the ball over, I think they'll hang with Citrus Hill, and who knows, they might even beat them.
You know, I'm also going to go with a quarterback. I'm going a little up north. I'm going to go with Marquand Harris. You know, Eisenhower had that disappointing loss to La Quinta last week. Everyone, you know, I think expects them to compete for Citrus Belt League title. Homecoming, home opener. You know, they beat Redlands last year.
Homecoming at Ike?
It's homecoming at Ike.
Okay.
So I think Marquand Harris is going to put on a show in front of the homecoming crowd and get them off to the right start in Citrus Belt League play.
All right, so there you have it. That's week 6 in a nutshell. Kyle will be joining myself on HS Game Time Live on Friday as we kind of break down all the scores and highlights. And where are you at on Friday, Kyle?
I'm going out Norco Centennial. And Thursday I'll be at Poly Arlington.
I guess that's a big game.
A little bit.
That's all right.
Just a little bit.
That's all right. We might have someone out there covering it. All right, so once again, thank you to Paco Craig, former Ramona, UCLA, and NFL star, as well as the Super-Dupa Jurupa Valley Jaguars. These guys were fun, right?
Oh, yeah, they're a blast.
They had a good time. They're 1-4 on the season, but they feel really good about where the season might be going as they head into River Valley League play, so the best to the Jaguars moving forward. For Kyle Glazer, I'm Pep Fernandez. We will do it again next Wednesday live on the Blitz at 5:30. See you then.